Ladies and gentlemen, federal employees, today we're talking about your annual leave lump sum payment, that lump sum check you're going to get at retirement, and why the government can take 40% or more from that payment before you even see it, the things that you need to keep an eye on, and the things you can do to potentially reduce the taxes on this lump sum payment, which for many feds is the only thing that gets them from the time they retire to the time their full pension actually pays out. It's super critical to understand what's going to come out and what you can do to reduce the tax load on this payment. So if you're new here, so good to have you. My name is Dallin Haas, a financial planner who serves federal employees every single day, and I absolutely love it. So someone might say that 40%, getting taxed 40% on this annual leave lump sum payment is not realistic. That doesn't happen. And the answer is yes, it does happen, and it actually happens quite often. Now, if you are a relatively low earner in a relatively low tax state, it probably won't happen to you. But let me walk you through an example of all the things that could come out of your annual leave lump sum payment that you have to worry about. Now, just to give some context, if you're not familiar, any unused annual leave you have at retirement, you will get a lump sum check for that unused annual leave when you walk out the door and retire. So for example, if you have 300 hours of annual leave when you retire, they're going to cut you a check for the amount of money you would have been paid had you actually worked that time. So the higher your hourly rate that you get paid, the bigger this payment's going to be, and the more hours you have, of course, the bigger this payment can be. So for many people, it could be tens of thousands of dollars, which is really helpful, again, to get you from the time you retire to the time your pension actually starts paying out in retirement. But again, here are the things that could come out. Number one, federal taxes. This lump sum is taxable. You have to pay federal taxes, definitely. Depending on your state, you may have to pay state taxes, and you'll have to pay Social Security taxes, depending on when you retire and what your income is, and Medicare taxes as well. Those are the big four: federal income, state income, Social Security, and Medicare taxes. Now, let me show you an example of when you might actually pay more than 40% in taxes on this lump sum. Let's do an example. If you are single and in a high tax state with relatively high income, this could very well happen to you. For example, this scenario assumes you make about $150,000 a year when you retire, you live in California, and you're single. If that's the case, your tax bracket for the federal side is going to be about 24%. On the state side in California, about 9.3%, Social Security 6.2%, Medicare 1.45%, a total percentage of 40.95%, which means whatever your annual leave lump sum is, you're only going to walk away with 60% of it. 41% is going to go straight to the IRS in taxes. So keep that in mind, that when you are prepared for this annual leave, keep in mind a big chunk of it can go to taxes. Now, if you make less, if you're married, if you live in a lower tax state, it can be a lower number, but regardless, it's going to be relatively high compared to what you might be used to, okay? Now, the next question I always get is, okay, what can you do to reduce these things and keep more money in your own pocket? Well, there's two main strategies that people use. Number one, if you retire December 31st of, let's say, 2024 or whatever year, that means your annual leave lump sum payment actually doesn't get paid out until the next year. So you retire in 2024, let's say, but you don't get your annual leave lump sum until 2025. So if you're in a higher tax bracket in 2024 and you get your lump sum in 2025, well, then it's taxed in the year you get the money, right? So, for example, you retire 2024, okay, 24, and you don't actually receive it in 2024. Your lump sum gets paid out a few weeks after retirement, okay? So if you, basically, whatever tax year you actually receive the lump sum is the tax year that you pay taxes on that lump sum. So in retirement, if you have a lower tax year that first year, that can help reduce some of these federal and state income taxes. Okay, that's strategy number one, is retire near the end of the year so that your annual leave lump sum payment will be taxed in the next year. Now, keep in mind, if the next year your tax bracket's about the same, well, it really didn't save you any because your tax bracket was about the same that next year. Okay, now, next strategy to consider. If you're a higher earner, then you know that basically if you make more than 100, let's say 160,000, right? More than that every single year, you might notice that near the end of the year, your net pay, how much you actually get in your net pay actually goes up a little bit, right? Some people notice that every time near the end of the year that happens, And the reason is every single year, Social Security is only taken out of your pay until a certain amount. Basically, this 6.2% that you pay for Social Security, you stop paying this once you've made so much money in a given year. Okay, once you've hit that limit, you don't pay Social Security on income after that. Okay, so for example, if someone made 180, okay, 180,000, I'm just gonna, the amount that Social Security applies on changes every year, but let's say it's about 160 grand. Okay, so in this example, the first 160 grand you have to pay the 6.2% Social Security tax on, but between 160 and 80, the last 20,000 you made that year, you do not pay this 6.2%. Again, 160 is not the exact number, it's just an example because this number changes every single year. Okay, you could look up 2024, whatever it is for this year, you could look it up. Okay, it's right in this ballpark. So long story short, if you're a higher earner, you make more than this Social Security limit, where once you make over that amount, you're not paying Social Security taxes anymore. What that means is, if you retired November 30th, let's say, and you've already made the entire Social Security amount, you've capped out Social Security for the year. If you retire November 30th, that means that this annual leave lump sum will get paid out the same year you retire, which means you've already paid all the Social Security taxes you can pay for the year. So you wouldn't have to pay Social Security taxes on the lump sum if you retired before the end of the year and it gets paid out before the end of the year, and you've already made enough money where you've maxed out Social Security already. Okay, so again, the only time this makes sense if you're a high earner, you make more than the most amount of money, the Social Security cap for the year, right? Again, you can find the actual number online that changes every year. It's around 160 grand. Okay, so if you've already made more than the Social Security limit for the year, and so you're not paying Social Security taxes anymore, if you retire November 30th, right, or sooner, before that, then your annual leave lump sum payment will not have to pay Social Security taxes, which again, you save 6.2% of whatever that is. Now, if your annual leave lump sum payment is relatively small, none of this will matter all that much, right? If you don't have a lot of unused annual leave at retirement, again, you don't have to worry about much of this. It's not that big of a deal either way, but keep it in mind. Keep this in mind, okay? Long story short, keep an eye on all the taxes you could potentially owe on your annual leave lump sum payment. It surprises a lot of people, so just understand you may not get as much as you want, and using one of these strategies can help, at least sometimes, in some situations, ease the tax burden that comes along with this payment. So I hope that's helpful. Have a great rest of your day. I'll see you guys next time.